there is apparent. And they accepted that, actually, and they were happy with that answer. Now, the second event was a Jewish gathering where I was asked about the same issue. And again, I think science is not in contradiction with religion the way many people portray it, in the sense that if you have a universe and you don't want to study it and you want to believe in God, you actually are losing something, because when there is an object that is very delicate, in fact, the best expression of love to someone else is when you want to know everything about that person. That's the most sincere expression of love. You want to know everything about the subject of your love. And so if you want to believe in God, doing science is the best way to express your love, because you want to know everything possible about the universe, right? Anything, any detail that will fill you up with awe. And it's much better to know the details, because you don't appreciate the universe as much if you don't know the details. And science is doing just that. It's getting as much data as possible and improving the view of how the universe came about and what it includes and so forth. So the way I see it is science is an enhancer of religion rather than now, of course, religions make statements about how the universe started that are not consistent with the Big Bang theory that we have right now. But all of these statements about things that science can explore about the physical reality should not be held as absolute truth, because science is work in progress. But in general, philosophically speaking, I think science can enhance your religious awe. And science, if you study the universe, you should be modest, because you realize that you are not that important. You're short-lived. You have such a small body on compared to the rest of the universe. It's inappropriate to have this hubris that people often have about our importance.
I wonder if you feel like that's sort of just part of our machinery, meaning, when you look at the variety of experiences that people have, and we talk to some really interesting near-death experience people who, have these incredible experiences, and what the kind of unifying emotional content of it is, even if we remove the God, kind of concept, the sort of unifying experience that people in near-death experiences talk about, people in transcendental experiences, psychedelic experiences, deep meditative experiences, people describe love. And what many people say is like that word is not even sufficient to describe the feeling inside, right? When you feel protected, and it's different than anything on this human plane. Do you think that that's just sort of part of the machinery, in which case religion would be a way to sort of create, this sort of structure that allows us to seek that? Is that just sort of part of the machinery?
I think fundamentally, here is my take on this. Fundamentally, we realize since the time that we are born that we will die. That's a devastating piece of news. Okay, and we work throughout our life to get meaning to living. Because what's the meaning of life if you know that it will end and nothing will survive? It's just like unplugging a computer from the power, and then the computer is dead. Even if it has a superhuman intelligence, all of these AI machines, if you stop the power, there will be nothing. And you can think of the human body just like that. When we die, nothing survives. And if you realize that, then you can take two takes on this. One, you can say, oh, actually death doesn't exist. You go to some other world, and in fact, even if you commit suicide, there are these terrorists that are willing to die just for the sake of the promise they're given. They never come back to sue whoever promised them that, of course, and that's the trick here. But the other approach, instead of believing that death is not really the end, is to say, well, I can get a meaning by belonging to something bigger than myself, by feeling a connection. And in fact, because I have a connection to something bigger, that something bigger is actually will survive even my death. Okay, so that, and that's a way of getting some meaning, because there is something bigger than our short life. And, I see myself in a much more lonelier place. I don't get meaning by connecting to other people with the same devastating fate. If all of us will die, then the connection I have to other people would also disappear.